Welcome to The Long Game. Today's guest, Brad Meltzer, president and partner of Two Roads Development. Two Roads closed $2.5 billion in construction loans in the past year. They're developing the Four Seasons in Las Vegas, the Four Seasons in Bahamas, multiple projects here in Miami, the Pendry in Tampa, and Brad is one of the most experienced contractors in all of Miami. He's been in the construction industry here in Miami for 28 years. So enjoy the show. Brad Meltzer, president, partner, Two Roads Development. Welcome to The Long Game. Great to have you.
Jay, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So Brad, you've built as a contractor, maybe more buildings than anyone else in Miami. Over 30, we were talking about it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Before the show.
Yeah.
How did you originally get into construction?
It's a great question. So I went to Tulane University School of Architecture. My dad's an architect. His brother's an architect. His father was an architect. So kind of the I guess footsteps that I was following in. But every summer, my dad wanted me to get a job in construction. He thought it was really important that the contractors and the architects all got to work together. Wanted me to see the nuts and bolts of things going together. Was framing houses in Long Island where I grew up most summers. And one summer, between my fourth and fifth year of my master's program, I got a job working for Plaza Construction. They offered me a job, and the rest was history. And one day later, 30 years later or whatever it was, I became the CEO of the company.
Family business, commitment, rising through the ranks, a lot of persistence in the construction industry. And so you started your career in New York City.
That's correct, yeah.
And what were some of the first buildings that you worked on, and what role did you start at?
Sure. So back in that day when I started, I was assistant superintendent. Plaza had a lot of corporate interiors. New York City has a big corporate interiors market. Fisher Brothers was the family or the parent company to Plaza Construction. So they owned a lot of buildings. We did a lot of TI work, turned these jobs around in 12, 14, 16 weeks, big jobs for Union Bank of Switzerland and Wachtell Lipton and like a lot of household names in New York City. So one of the great things about doing interiors work is you learn the sensitivity of time. You're always moving.
Yeah.
And when I started moving into the building of buildings, I tried to kind of take that same methodology and mentality to try to get things done quickly.
Yeah, in construction development, time is money.
Critical.
Interest is, the clock is ticking. We want to stay on budget, make sure that you deliver on time, rent, and all of that. So that's where you start. After your first role, you were promoted and you took on more responsibility. What did that look like?
I think it's interesting. In the construction business, going through the ranks doesn't necessarily mean your role changes, but you become more of a decision maker. You start to have a different engagement with your clients. They rely on you because they want you to make decisions on their behalf that they can trust. So to me, construction's always been about developing trust with your clients. And as I developed my relationship with my clients, and they began to say, "Hey, this is the guy we need to go to." So you want to become their go-to guy. And I think that's the relationships I developed in New York, and then I tried to take the same thing here when I moved to Miami.
Yeah, trust is absolutely important. Building that long-term relationship and understanding of your client and who you're working with.
Even today, 25 years, 30 years later, I still have some of those same clients calling me with questions or industry partners calling me with questions. I sometimes even have my competitors call me with questions. And to me, that's one of the things I'm most proud of.
That's incredible to have those kind of relationships.
Yep.
And Brad, what brought you to Miami, and what was your first project?
So I moved here under the happy wife, happy life theory, right? My wife was born and raised. It's a great theory, and it's proven well. I actually just celebrated my 30th wedding anniversary, so I guess all is working out.
Congratulations.
Thanks. My wife was born and raised here in Coconut Grove. Our first son was born, and she really wanted to move to Miami. A company that had been kind of trying to get me to come work for them for a while was a company called Structure Tone in New York, and they owned Pavarini Construction. We came down here, we flew down for a presentation to build a project right here on Brickell Key, not too far from here, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. It was really the first 5-star project that Miami had seen. We flew down, we got the job. 60 days later, I'm living in Miami and I'm building a hotel. Incredible project.
What year was this?
This is 1998, 99.
Wow.
And this past Sunday, the building got torn down. Yeah, incredible. I guess I'm getting old enough that my projects are going to get torn down soon, right?
Well, full circle, it's an incredible piece of real estate. It's a great brand, great developer. They launched, as Brad mentioned, it was just torn down because they're building a brand new high-rise, multiple towers.
That's correct. I guess at this point in Miami's life cycle, 19-story hotel on that piece of property wasn't the best and highest use.
Right.
Swire's a great developer. There used to be a gentleman named Steve Owens, who was the chairman of Swire at the time. And as a young project manager for that project, I learned a lot of great lessons from him that I continued while as a contractor, but now I've also taken them onto the development side. And he was great at understanding when there was a problem that presented itself, how to diffuse the room, how to make the project be the most important, right? What was the best thing for the project? And usually when you can do that and you get people collaborating, you end up getting great results. He was a great, great developer.
That's really, really interesting. And you built the Mandarin Oriental. You've also built some other very iconic hospitality hotel buildings in Miami. We're going to talk about a number of them because you've built so many. You built the W South Beach. Let's talk about that job and how did that come about?
That was a great project. The developer was a group called TriCap, also partnering with RFR.
David Edelstein.
David Edelstein,
Yep.
Great man. And they hired or partnered with Related of New York. Related was the fee developer on that project. It was the first time I ever worked on a project where that situation existed. David's a great guy, still friends with him today. As a matter of fact, they opened up the Nomad in Wynwood this week, and I texted him this morning. He and his whole team. You hope that your clients become your friends, and you hope that they become people you stay in touch with for a long time. So that's a perfect example of a group of people that not only do we have a great project and a great relationship, but we still have it today, 20 plus years later.
Brad, you have a great reputation in the market. This is the long game. And I've already heard you talk about these long-term relationships. What do you think it is about relationships? Because today people are moving so quickly. Everyone's connected. They see things as disposable. I can move on to the next thing or the next person here and there, the next job, the next deal. What is it that you've seen that's made you successful in building these long-term relationships?
Architecture, construction, development, it's a people business, right? At the end of the day, we're not making widgets in a factory and shipping them around the world. You're having direct contact, direct relationships. Even today, even though we have Zoom, I'm always trying to get people around a conference table and have meetings to discuss issues. And I think when you treat people with respect, even when you're the boss or you're the owner, just treat everybody as you want to be treated yourself. Even when you have a problem with somebody, don't chastise them in front of everybody else in the room. Pull them out on the side and say, hey, we got an issue. Let's talk about it here. But you don't have to, make an example of them in front of other people. And I think over the years, I've tried to handle myself that way. I'm not perfect. I've had my moments, I'm sure. But when you do that, I think all those things come back. People want to work with people they like.
Yeah.
Right? They have choices.
Yeah.
Especially when they're hiring different construction companies or hiring different architects. They want to work with people who they feel like-minded with, and that they can have a mutual respect. That Mandarin project, as an example, some of those subcontractors that I worked with there, to this day, I'm still working with those same subcontractors.
Right.
As a matter of fact, on Monday, a week ago, I hosted an annual charity golf event. All industry people. Some of those same subcontractors from 1999 are still coming to my golf outing. They become friends. They become part of your go-to relationships. And the subs know their business better than any GC knows their business. Right? So if I have an electrical problem, I call Power Design. I have a fire sprinkler related issue, I call Sprinklermatic. I have a plumbing issue, I call Manny from Professional. All these guys that become your go-to guys, over the years, they know that they can rely on me as I can rely on them.
That's an important lesson here for the listeners, that no matter what, we have AI, we have ChatGPT, we have all this technology. We're connected, but we're not connected in many ways. And even the construction business, you've had longevity in your relationships. It's a people business. And being likable is an asset.
100%.
At the end of the day, being likable is an asset. And I remember on our first call that we had is that you want to know how your partner or how someone is on their worst day. And because everything's good when things are going well, but you want to see how people operate when there's challenges and when there's problems.
Well, that's really why I'm at Two Roads now. So the transition We grew the Plaza business here in South Florida, and as you mentioned, we had a great run to build a lot of fantastic projects. And when I decided to leave that industry or that business, I took a little bit of time. I had a sage advice from a friend who said, take 6 months and kind of put some space between what it is you're doing now and what you might do next. And I said to myself, okay, well, I'm 55 years old. This is 5 years ago. What do I want to be when I grow up, right? I have a chance to kind of rethink this. And Two Roads were former clients of mine, Taylor Collins and Reed Bourne. We built a building called Biscayne Beach, 52-story high-rise in Edgewater. Right while I was building the 4 Paraiso Towers, we just finished Icon Bay. I built 2 other, I think I built 8 buildings in that neighborhood
in
alone,
Edgewater.
right? And so it was a nice time, flattering time. A lot of people reaching out, hey, Brad, what are you going to do next? What's your next thing? And I had lunch with Reed. Reed said, hey, let's go sit with Taylor. And we sat down, and I came home and I told my wife, if it all works with these guys, for me, most importantly was I saw how they acted on a bad day. You build a 52-story building together, every day is not going to be perfect.
Right.
How do they treat the people that they worked with? How do they treat the architects? How do they treat the contractors? How do they treat the engineers when people made mistakes?
Right.
And I got to actually see that as opposed to some other groups that I was talking to about joining. I didn't know how they acted on a bad day.
Right.
And at this point in life, it's about relationships. And life's too short to work at a place that you don't get along with everybody.
Right, and Two Roads has a great reputation. Taylor, Reed, amazing guys, and
Super great guys.
That's a testament to the quality of their character. You had many options. You could go to any other developers, I'm sure at the time, and the fact that you chose them, and now you're working president. You guys have closed over $2.5 billion in construction loans in the past year or so. You're developing in Tampa, you're developing here in Miami, you're developing in Las Vegas, and you're developing in the Bahamas, and I'm sure looking at other projects. You, as running construction in your background, what's it like managing all of these different projects? And maybe talk about one that let's talk about Tampa.
Sure.
And then the difference between developing in Tampa versus the Bahamas and Las Vegas.
Sure. So Tampa is an interesting opportunity. The Pendry that we're developing there is 200 condo units and 222 hotel keys in downtown Tampa, right on the river. It's a very complicated project. The foundations were probably the most complicated I've ever done. We have piles that go 280 feet deep.
Wow.
Right along the river. Very complicated site. Going vertical was challenging. Even there, though, Power Design, Sprinklermatic, Cinco Concrete, lots of the subcontractors and trades that I worked with here in Miami are working with us over there. I have a lead project director. We call it a project director, the person who runs our projects, named John Orbaugh. John worked for me at Plaza. So again, a relationship that I knew and trusted brought John to that project. Architectonica,
Yep.
I think I built 11 towers with Architectonica. As a matter of fact, Sherry Gutierrez, who runs their studio here in Miami, she went to architecture school with me. So even relationships that go back to college, we're working with a great team out there. Challenging job. It's going to be, I think, the most exciting job that Tampa has ever seen.
Yeah.
There's some great new projects. Tampa's really maturing. As you know, I know you have things in Tampa. Addition, Ritz-Carlton, the things that are happening with SPP and Gasworks. But I think this is going to be the nicest project that Tampa has seen yet. We're super proud of it. We're on schedule. And right now we're approaching the 19 stories, so pretty much 50% of the way up.
That's great. Yeah, Tampa is really coming into its own.
Incredible.
We have a project there. Bill Gates, Jeff Vinnig, SPP, they invested $4 billion redeveloping Water Street. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You guys are doing really well in Las Vegas. You closed a over $600 million loan, Sculptor, JP Morgan, and by this point, 80% or more sold?
We are 85% sold.
Wow.
Numbers that are setting a record out in the valley. What's interesting is there's not a lot of vertical condominium product in that marketplace, right? So I think when it was first thought of, it was a new concept. We have the Four Seasons flag there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Four Seasons is the cream of the crop, the kind of gold standard in the branded residential world.
Yep.
Not that other brands aren't necessarily as interesting or as good as Four Seasons, but they've been doing it for so long.
Right.
Working with their team, we get great thoughts and quality out of the operations team, the design team. For me, the interesting part about building in Vegas is I've been building on flat land here in Miami for a long time. We're building in the mountains there.
Yeah.
We have trades that we don't even work with here, like slope stabilization.
Wow.
Never even thought of that trade before, right? And so it's an incredible project. We hired Suffolk Construction as our contractor there. They're doing a great job. The people on that team, one of the superintendents had relocated from South Florida. Sales are great.
These are $5 million units in Las Vegas. 85% sold out.
We're over $2,000 a foot in that marketplace, and the units are rather large. 171 condo units, and an amenities package that really rivals any hotel you've been to. 3 spectacular pools. The spa's amazing. The fitness area is amazing. Wolfgang Puck is our restaurant operator. I mean, it's an incredibly luxe project, and we have great partners on that project.
And what do these buyers look like? Are they relocating from California?
It's a great question. So at the outset, this project originally wasn't going to be a Four Seasons. It wasn't branded Four Seasons. Our local partner, Azure Development, and a partner that they had in New York, Luxus Development, were going to build a condominium. Eventually, they engaged with Four Seasons. So the first wave of buyers were really local, I'll call it empty nesters. Mm-hmm. People that lived in the area. McDonald Highlands, where it was a gated community that were inside of McDonald Highlands, also on the golf course, has beautiful homes, $10 to $15 million homes. But this was an opportunity for people to experience condominium lifestyle.
Yeah.
We're so accustomed to it here in Miami, but you don't really see it out there. And then, so I think the first wave of buyer was local. Now we're seeing Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle.
Yeah.
Nevada is to California like Miami or South Florida is to New York in many ways.
Yep.
Much shorter flight though, and there's a lot of change. I say that all the time that Las Vegas reminds me a lot of Miami in many ways, whereas Miami, the economy used to always be about vacation, tourism, and the beach.
Yep. And
now there's a lot of other economic engines that help this city go and will kind of allow us to not see so many crazy cycles.
Yep.
Las Vegas is also becoming that. There's a lot more industry there. There are multiple sports, NBA is going to be coming there soon. Football's there now. Baseball stadiums being built. Movie studios are moving there. The Sphere. So there's a lot of other entertainment other than just the Strip. And I got to be honest, when I first went out to look at the site, Taylor and Reed and I went out, we were blown away by the site because you're 30 minutes from the Strip. You're in the Foothill Mountains.
This is in Henderson.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of being in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Right? Mountains, biking, hiking, tennis, golf, all year round. Yeah, it's a little bit hot in the summer, but it's a little hot here in the summer too.
Yeah.
And
Dry
so
heat, yeah.
We love that marketplace and we love the project.
Yeah. We looked at some deals more recently in Las Vegas that I talked to Taylor about, and there's not a lot of competition. Sounds like a pretty good market.
It is. Don't tell anybody else about it.
We won't. You're also developing in the Bahamas.
Yes.
So that's outside the U.S. Mm-hmm. There's opportunities there. There's also some challenges. How is that going? How do you see Two Roads managing construction and the people, the contractors, the subcontractors, materials? Have you guys built out a process, and how are you guys managing
Sure. So it is different, right? There are no materials there, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you're bringing in, other than maybe concrete, everything has to get shipped in. I had built a project in Aruba a number of years ago. So a lot of what I learned on that project, I'm bringing to this project with our team. Critical to hire a great local contractor. We have somebody on board. They've been involved from the get-go. It's also Four Seasons. So from a design standpoint and operations standpoint, it's great. Our partners own the Four Seasons Ocean Club Hotel right next door. Mm-hmm. So we have local boots on the ground with understanding of the laws and the economics and the different things you need to know when you're working in a foreign environment. The beauty of the Bahamas is it's a very stable place. Mm-hmm. We're building in Paradise Island. The NASA airport is an international airport, so we're not building in an incredibly remote island like the Exumas
Right.
and something like that. So I think for our first foray into the Caribbean, it's a really, I don't want to say it's a simple place to build, but it's a much better place than building in some really remote, unique location.
You have tremendous experience. The team, Taylor, yourself, Reed, Four Seasons also, they're not going to go somewhere that is challenging to build. So they put their stamp of approval, and now you guys have multiple projects there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the buyer there is interesting too, right? Because in a vacation environment, it's typically not someone who's living there permanently, right? This project allows you to put your unit back into the hotel pool when you're not there, and it's going to be used by other Four Seasons, guests. So there's an opportunity for the buyer to, not just invest the money and then let it sit there and
Right.
not use it. They get some benefit coming back to them.
Right. And who's managing sales for you there?
Corcoran Group is managing sales. Pam Liebman, as a matter of fact, she was just texting me as I was walking in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's come back to Miami. You've built so many buildings in Miami. You've done huge renovations, really iconic projects. The One Hotel. What was that project like?
That was a great project. So that was an interesting project. First of all, we started that project, and the budget was literally on a one-page, almost like the proverbial napkin, right? No drawings yet. They had an architect on board. I'll leave them nameless. They ended up cutting bait with that architect.
Yep.
They brought Kobe Carpin. I introduced him to Kobe, great friend of mine.
Yeah.
They had a great design team on board. But that was a partnership between Richard Lefrak and Barry Sternlicht, Starwood and Lefrak, two titans of industry.
Titans, yep.
We presented, and I'll leave my competitor at the time nameless. Actually, it's a competitor that I've recently hired to build for me now. And when I was at Plaza, we got awarded that project. And we literally started without any drawings. A lot of investigation. It was an old building. It needed a lot of repairs. We had to do open walls to find out what was there or what wasn't there. It was a great project. I TCO'd that project at the same time I was TCOing a number of other large projects, and they opened to incredible numbers, right?
Yeah.
That was a time, a friend of mine, Michael Tillman, worked there at Lefrak at the time. It was the first time I saw somebody sell a condo unit on an iPad.
Wow.
Like kind of before Zoom was Zoom.
Yeah.
Showing someone the unit, and they closed on a unit, hadn't even ever seen it, hadn't ever been in there.
Wow.
And the numbers supported, a great end product for them. And I think they sold those hotel rooms at the highest price in the history of Miami Beach.
Yes, they absolutely set records there.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite properties here.
Great project. But that was a labor of love.
A labor of love.
And by the way, another example of Richard Lefrak, Barry Sternlicht, Jeff DeModica, Michael Tillman, Kobe Karp, Gavin Middleton, who was working for Starwood, who now runs Cumming Group. All still my friends.
Yeah. A project that maybe was a little more difficult to build, but it's iconic nonetheless. 1000 Museum.
Maybe my favorite one of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe my favorite one of all time. Kevin Wenger and Louis Birdman.
Yep.
Kevin and I probably text on an almost every other day basis. That was a really incredibly challenging project, and that was a perfect example of why pre-construction is so critical to the process when done right.
Yeah.
Because that project could have never gotten done had planning not started a year and a half or 2 years before we broke ground, truly. I don't know if you know this, but the entire exoskeleton of that project came from Dubai. Every single piece got shipped over. They were baked in a kiln in Dubai and shipped over with, on the back, a barcode so we knew exactly where each piece went. There wasn't a single piece on the facade that was the same as another piece. Every piece was unique. Even though it looks like a mirror image, those pieces are similar but opposites of each other. Every piece came shipped over. They each weighed about a ton. And if we didn't have them lined up in a yard down the block, we would have never been able to build that building because it would have been like dominoes falling.
Yeah.
If one piece was not there or out of place, the whole building would have had to stop. Incredible project. And Zaha Hadid, that was the last building that she was involved in. First, I think, was the first residential building in the U.S. that she ever designed. And unfortunately, when we were about the 8th or 9th floor is when she passed away here in Miami. And that was really an incredibly special project.
That building sets records to this day. it's really an icon for Miami.
Yeah.
So for you to build it, be in charge of leading that construction, really hats off to you guys.
Thanks. Very exciting. And the team ODP was the local architect, another group that I got to meet. I'm really excited to see their business grow since that project. Now they're doing projects where they're not just the local architect anymore, and they're doing great design work as well.
We're working with ODP and Kurt on multiple projects.
There you go.
And Brad, the way that you manage your construction process is different than many others. In the construction world, there's a concept called GMP, guaranteed maximum price. And that's a risk management tool and mechanism for the industry, for developers. You operate by zero allowance. Let's talk about that and how your methodology is different than other developers and contractors.
Sure. So one of the things I learned as a contractor for a long time is that the GMP is only as good as the documents and the qualifications and the allowances, right? It's really that combination. So while many lenders and the lenders' lawyers think a GMP is some great document, it really isn't if it's riddled with holes. And I saw those over the years. And a lot of those holes were the result of decisions not being made timely. So, as an example, let's carry an allowance for plumbing fixtures. We haven't picked them yet. Okay, they carry an allowance, and eventually when those plumbing fixtures get picked, if they pick expensive plumbing fixtures and they don't meet the allowance, it's a change order.
Change order. Yeah.
Right. Not only is it a cost implication, but very often, since you're making those decisions later, it could become a schedule impact or coordination issue, right? Maybe they picked plumbing fixtures that were too deep for a cavity in a wall, and now the wall has to be changed, or things like that would happen all the time. Tile, stone, allowances that you used to see all the time that sometimes could be 20, 30% of a budget. So we try at Two Roads is to have a zero allowance tolerance. Now, you never get to zero, but my contract out in Las Vegas on $633 million GMP, 1.4% of allowances.
Incredible.
What did that mean? That meant the contractor, the developer, and the architect and the designers all had to be aligned. They all had to be incredibly diligent and focused to get these things done. But now we can go to sleep at night because everything's been picked for the project, literally everything, even down to shower door handles and little things like that. So that is a risk mitigation factor that we're trying to put in place. It mitigates change order risk, it mitigates schedule delays, and it takes, I don't want to say excuses away from the contractor, but the contractors now say, hey, this is great. I know everything I need. I can blow and go.
Right.
I don't have to keep asking my client as the owner, Mr. Owner, I need this. Mr. Owner, I need that. I don't have this information. As I used to tell my clients as a contractor, you need to do two things: make decisions timely and pay timely.
Yeah.
So we're taking the decisions that have to be made out of the equation.
You're putting the work up front. You're making the decisions, the uncertainty, the questions, and defining that up front, simplifying, saving yourselves money, saving yourselves time.
Exactly. And you can't put a value on that. You can't put a value on it. And it's also allowing my team and the contractors, instead of becoming change order managers, they're actually becoming project managers. And we used to see that a lot too. Every contractor who might be listening to this podcast knows exactly what I'm talking about. When you have so many change orders to deal with, the general contractor is not making money on the change orders. It's actually absorbing the bandwidth of the talented people that they have working for them to manage change orders instead of managing the forward progress of a project.
Right, and that creates friction between the developers and the contractors.
Constant butting heads, and you're right. It also creates a bad project culture. People want to come to work and feel good about what they're doing when they show up every day, and it's all about gripe and problems.
Yeah.
They don't put in the same effort.
That's right. And how has the industry evolved here in Miami over the years? You've been here 28 years developing iconic projects. How has the business changed? Maybe not so much. Let's let the listeners hear.
I think, first of all, I think Miami has grown a lot. There used to be a time when there wasn't even GMPs, right? There was a time when it was a lump sum hard bid. That's what they wanted. It was kind of the old school methodology. They'd give a set of drawings to three contractors, give me a hard bid. And that
hard bid versus GMP.
Well, a hard bid was just the plans and specs without qualifications, without allowances. It was the plans and specs.
Yeah.
Right? Also back then, buildings weren't as complicated.
Yeah.
Buildings didn't have as many high-end finishes. We had a lot unfortunately, because a lot of the old architecture from the 70s, 80s, and 90s was, white stucco, picket rail, punched windows, sliding glass door buildings, right? Now, architecture has evolved in town. I think people in this marketplace appreciate quality architecture and quality design. They're willing to pay for it.
Yep.
We saw that in a wave of great design. Now we're seeing that even kind of rolled into the branded residential that we see here so much. Hotel projects are much more luxe. And I think the marketplace has become more sophisticated. It's not just in the construction industry. I think Miami as a whole, you're seeing more young people move here into this market. When I graduated college, everybody went to New York, Washington, Chicago, San Francisco, right? Now Miami's actually an option for the best and brightest in America to come to, and I think that's going to continue to perpetuate just a quality marketplace of talent, whether it's our business, the legal business, finance business. I think we're seeing that.
Right. And what do you think some of the biggest challenges ahead we have here in Miami? What do we have to do to continue this momentum, continue attracting the best, wealthy, building, and what do you foresee here?
Well, people talk about traffic all the time. I don't think it's traffic.
Yeah.
Go to Midtown New York City on a Thursday afternoon during a certain times of year. That's real traffic,
Yeah.
right? So we have a little bit of traffic. I think schools are our biggest issue that we have here, both private and public.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough quality private schools. I was a product of public schools growing up in New York. Great public school system. When I moved here, I kind of let my wife guide the bus, if you will, on schools. All my kids went to private schools here. The problem with that is if you're trying to bring in a mid-level to upper-level manager, and they come from another marketplace, let's say you're trying to recruit them from Charlotte, North Carolina, at a good salary, once they start to understand what housing costs are now in Miami and what private school costs, and they look at the salary you're offering them, like, wow, that doesn't go as far as I thought it could go. It goes much better, goes a little further here in Raleigh, Durham, or Charlotte, or Austin, or other places. And I think we need to fix that. We need to make our public schools better as an option, and we need to have maybe one or two more private schools open, or some of the private schools expand, or open up another satellite option somewhere else. So maybe one of the better public schools in Dade County opens one up in North Miami Beach or another region, because we need those options.
I'm reading about alpha schools, and I'm hearing that developers are starting to look at opening these additional private schools, alpha schools, training the way kids learn, really innovating, and so that should help. Traffic, you're right. When I drive through Brickell and there's people walking across the street, you could say, wow, this is kind of annoying. There's people everywhere, but actually, that means so many people want to be here. The city has become more walkable.
Jay, when I first moved here, so where the Flatiron building is that Ugo Colombo developed, there was a restaurant there called Brickell Emporium, little bagel place,
Yeah.
and Pericone's was across the street. First of all, those are the only two places in this entire area to go eat, period. And if you drove in Brickell on a Saturday, ghost town.
Ghost town.
Nobody was walking. There was
Yeah.
nowhere to walk to,
Yeah.
right? It's a completely different place than it was when I first moved here. And I think, yes, along with more people comes a little traffic. But that's the beauty of what's making Miami, kind of a magnet for people to want to be in.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Let's switch gears. Some personal life questions for you.
Sure.
You mentioned golf charity. You love golfing.
Yeah.
Handicap, and what's your favorite golf course?
So I'm on the board at Lagos Country Club, Miami Beach. So I'll say that's my favorite course. We're actually getting ready to tear the clubhouse down and build a new clubhouse. So I'm in charge of the building committee. So having fun doing that. My golf index has just risen. I was down around a 5, and now I'm around an 8. So competitive, but having
that's good
fun.
for Taylor and Reed. You're working.
There you go. Exactly.
You're working.
Exactly. Yeah. My handicap went down during that lull between Plaza and Two Roads. But I do love to travel to play golf.
Yeah.
Love playing golf in other parts of the country. I was out in Vegas and played Shadow Creek just recently. A great course out there. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing that with my friends. My wife learned how to play golf during COVID, so we're enjoying golf.
Yeah.
2 of our 3 sons play golf, so it becomes a nice family activity, or play 9 holes with another couple on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. So it's a nice way to socialize with people. and actually spend time with them.
Yeah.
Hard to do that when you're playing tennis across the net from somebody.
Yeah, having your wife play golf, and as you get old, it's something that you can play for many years. So
Exactly.
you can do it together. You can travel the world.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
do that.
No, absolutely.
Favorite restaurants.
Favorite restaurants. So a shout out to my friend Luca at Doma. I love Doma in Wynwood. I think it's excellent. We love Contessa. We've been spending a lot of time at the Contessa also in Boston at the Newbury Hotel. So they've done a good job at both those locations there. Milos on Miami Beach, another project that I built years ago.
Yeah.
I think that restaurant has really stood the test of time. It's the interiors are still beautiful. The service and the food is excellent.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. Right across the way, Casa Tua. The market at Casa Tua is great.
Yep.
I think what's also amazing. When I first moved here, couldn't get a good meal. Literally, Joe's was maybe the only good restaurant in Miami. Joe's and Osteria del Teatro, which no longer exist. Now, every night of the week, you can pick somewhere else.
You can go to a new restaurant. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And travel plans this summer. Where are you going with your wife and the family?
So we're celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary. We just had that, and I just turned 60. So my wife and I are taking a little trip. We're going to Positano and Capri a week from now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. When we travel with our family, my older son lives in New York City, so we go to visit him a lot. My parents still live up there. Fortunate to have 4 grandparents still for my children, so we get up to see my parents fairly often. And we'll spend some other time traveling around to some other places over the summer.
30 years of marriage, that really is the long game.
That is the long game. It's again, you want to do business with people you like.
Yeah.
Right? It's funny, when we became empty nesters, my youngest son went away to a school in Boston, a boarding school in Boston 2 years ago, and you look around and you say, thank God we still like each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And what advice? You've done so much, you've accomplished so much here in South Miami, building so many buildings. You're in the next phase of development with Two Roads, building on your portfolio, building some iconic, also Four Seasons, additions, Pendrys, all of these projects. For people in the industry, construction, development, architecture, what advice do you have for them to evolve in their careers and to rise? You were the CEO of Plaza before, now you're the president of Two Roads, you're a partner. What advice do you have for those out there that are listening?
I would say a couple things. First, make sure you like it.
Yeah.
Right? Do something you like, especially if you're young. If you don't like it, it's a long life, right?
Yeah.
Get out of it now. So first is make sure you like it. Second is surround yourself with trustworthy people.
Yeah.
Have that mentor that you can go to, which is one of the great things. Zoom and work from home is allowing some people to not show up places. Show up when you can. Because people will always like to help you. I can't tell you how often I get a call from a young person. I want to help them. I want to see them grow. So find a great mentor or mentors. And last, like I said earlier, treat people with respect.
Yeah.
Treat them well, and they'll treat you well back.
Absolutely. Take care of people around you. Build trust with them. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, I guess the easy way in today's world is I'm on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? Instagram and LinkedIn, I guess that's pretty much how people find me that they don't know me. Our website has information about me, but I think I'm connected to something like 17,000 people on LinkedIn. So if you try to get to me on LinkedIn and I don't respond immediately, you'll know why.
Yeah.
But that's the best way to get me.
Amazing. Brad, thanks for being on The Long Game.
Jay, thanks for having me. Great stuff.